welcome back to another episode of Career Spotlight. Today I have with us Cathy Fazzolari, who is co-owner of Coluccio Sons, a wholesale and retailer of specialty Italian food products, and author of the Italian Daughter Cookbook. She is a first-generation American to immigrant parents from Calabria, Italy. So, without further ado, let's get into today's episode. So first off, I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting
Of course.
me.
So can you talk to us about what it was like growing up in New York?
So I am the child of an immigrant. My parents were born in southern Italy. There are 19 regions in Italy, and they were born in Calabria, Italy. And I'm one of 6 children, and my 5 siblings were born in Calabria also. And they immigrated to this country in 1964. A few years later, I was born, and I was the only American born in my family. There's a 22-year age gap between my oldest brother and myself. So there was a huge difference. Most of them were already educated from Italy. They didn't go to school here in this country. But growing up in Brooklyn, I grew up in the Bensonhurst Bay Ridge area of Brooklyn. It was absolutely amazing because we were all children of immigrants. So growing up in the 60s and 70s in Brooklyn was really amazing. And all the immigrants who came to this country back in during that time brought with them their traditions of family, food, and cooking. And I learned how to cook from my mom. She was determined to have me learn the ways of her country and of our traditions from her homeland. So as a little girl, I was my mother's sous chef. I started cutting onions and garlic and parsley. I would roll meatballs for her. And it wasn't that much about the cooking, but it was the connection that the two of us made. And my love of food came from my mom. On the other aspect, my father, when he came to this country, decided to start an importing business because he realized that there were so many Italian immigrants here in America, but there wasn't the food from our homeland. So he started an Italian food importing business in the early 1960s.
Wow.
So he would bring in different products from all over Italy. And I'd say about 15 years ago, he was honored by the Italian Trade Commission for bringing his work to America. He was one of the first Italian importers, and he said one day all of America will know these products. So that's where my love of food, I had two aspects. I had one with my father bringing in the imports, but he really wasn't the cook. He would come and he would bring us like samples of tomatoes from 3 different manufacturers. He would bring us cheeses from different manufacturers. And my mother and I would do the sample cooking with the different samples that we had to test to see which was the best product for him to bring in.
Wow, that's really cool and really amazing that your dad started this company and was honored for it. Do you have a specific memory or something that stuck out to you where you really felt like food and you had this passion of like cooking?
So I always loved to cook. I mean, I love to have people at my home. I love to entertain. So growing up with my mother, we lived next door to the business. So my original home was upstairs from our original store. And then we moved around the corner and we lived next door to the business. So we always had business meetings. My dad would have business meetings and he would come in and he's like, in an hour, I'm going to be there with five guests. And my mother and I would just whip up these amazing dinners in less than an hour. And that's what I love to do. I love to entertain. It really brings people and family together. It's really about tradition.
Wow. And I feel like it's really important to like kind of stick back to your culture and like your roots.
Yes. I'm just so proud of my heritage. I can't imagine coming to this country with 5 children, not knowing the language and succeeding. I mean, I can't imagine how difficult it was for them in the 60s.
Yeah. So can you talk to us a little bit about the start of your career and how you were kind of already touched on this, but like what led you into this field?
So I'm co-owner. About 20 years ago, I became partners. So the original business was started by my father my late father and my two brothers in the 1960s. And in 1992, my father made me a partner in the business. I joined the business and I became partners with my two brothers and my dad. So I would go to Italy and I would go to various trade shows and always going to find authentic products that we could import in. But I noticed that from our area in Italy, which is Calabria, there's very, very little was written about it. There were, I think, about 2 cookbooks when I came up with this idea about our cooking from Calabria. I would watch the cooking channel and I would read cookbooks, and they were just so different from our cooking. So one day I was sitting with my youngest daughter, Isabella, and I said to her, you know how everyone says, I wish I had my mother's recipes? Yeah. I said, I'm going to write a cookbook, and you will never be able to say you don't have your mother's cookbooks. So I said, your mother's recipes. So I said, whether this goes in a binder or actually gets published, I said, I'm writing a cookbook. So we started this about 14 years ago. So all the recipes, my mother didn't write any of her recipes down. Everything was done by using all your senses of eye, smell, taste, and feel. So I had to recreate all these recipes from memory. Now, I don't know how to measure like a quarter of a teaspoon of salt and a quarter of a cup of oil. So we measured by the palm of our hands, or we would put oil in a frying pan and just see when it's enough. So when I started this project, my daughter Isabella would sit down and I would measure in the palm of my hand, and then I would put it into a measuring cup and she would write down the measurements. And then everything was written, and all the recipes were retested 4 and 5 times to make sure that the recipes were accurate. Some recipes I was able to recreate with not a problem, but the more difficult recipes took like 4 or 5 testing times till they were perfected.
What is your favorite recipe in your cookbook?
Probably my favorite recipe is zucchini flower fritters. Okay. Growing up, we had a garden in our backyard in the summer, my mother would grow zucchini, and the zucchini plant would grow flowers. And she would pick flowers every morning, and when we had enough flowers, like 20, 25 flowers, she would make these zucchini fritters that were absolutely amazing. But all the recipes in the book are very, very simple. The only thing that is needed in order to make the recipes in the book is to use high quality ingredients, because everything is very, very, like I said, everything is very simple. So if you have 3 ingredients, let's say a tomato and olive oil, garlic, and basil, you need to use high quality tomatoes, high quality olive oil, and fresh vegetables, high quality meats. So it's basically like a farm to table book.
Okay, thanks. Can you talk to us a little bit about what the process of kind of writing the book? Well, I mean, you kind of touched on that, but then like what the process of like publishing the book was like?
It wasn't an easy process. It was a difficult process. So at first I had to learn how to write a manuscript. So I learned how to write a manuscript. I wrote all the recipes that I was going to include into the book. So first everything was written by hand. From hand, I transferred everything over into the computer, into Microsoft Word. And then I handed, about 4 years ago, I approached a publisher, Powerhouse Publishing, and asked him if he would consider my book. And as soon as he saw the manuscript and he saw the photographs, and I talked to him about my knowledge of cooking, he immediately said to me, you will have this book published. I will publish this book for you.
Wow. So then after that, what was like the process of like going back, revising the book and everything like?
So that was difficult because as I wrote the recipes, let's say the salt recipes, some places I would have salt, some places I would have sea salt, some places I would have recipes in cups, some places I would have recipes in teaspoons. So they wanted everything to be uniform throughout the whole book. So all of that editing was very, very difficult and time consuming. Also, photography took quite a while and took a lot out of me. So my publisher wanted each recipe to have 3 to 4 photographs. Mm-hmm. So we hired a photographer, Daniel Powers, who was also a friend, Daniel Paterna, who was a friend of the publisher. And he would come to my house on Saturdays, and I would cook for about 10 hours.
Wow.
And he would photograph as I cooked. So that was a bit challenging, but it was absolutely amazing. He captured my love of food in the photography. And while we were doing the photographs, he would say to me, I want you to plate all the dishes. These dishes need to look. He said, I will do the styling, but you need to plate. I want all of these dishes to look like they came out of your kitchen and to be authentic.
Wow. That's really cool, and memory or something that like really stuck out to you throughout these like years of writing this book.
Oh my God, this has been surreal. I just could never imagine that this dream of mine would come true. But I never gave up. It was like it was a dream of mine to write a cookbook. And as soon as we started, I mean the original the original contract, when I received the contract when I met the publisher and we shook hands, and he said, you will have a cookbook published within a few years. Was just absolutely amazing. Then when we started photography, and at the end of the night, he would show me the pictures on the phone, and I was like, oh my God, this is really gonna happen. Probably the most emotional part was when they went to publishing and they sent me pictures of so the book was published in Italy. I had choices of where I would like the book published. I could have had it published in China. I could have had it published in different areas, and I chose to have the book printed in Verona, Italy.
Wow, nice.
I wanted to give back to my roots. So the publisher and the photographer went to Italy to have the book printed, and when they actually when that morning when I woke up and they were showing me the pages of the book coming through the printer were absolutely surreal. I could not believe that I was seeing this.
That's really amazing and really great and really cool that you were able to do that, and you were able to have kind of like a full circle moment and bring it back to your roots and your heritage of Italy. Do you have any future plans of writing another cookbook? If so, like what would that cookbook entail that's different than this one? Or do you feel like this cookbook really captured everything you wanted?
No, I do have intentions of writing another cookbook. So my daughter, Isabella, helps me with the recipes and the editing, but the two of us have intentions of writing a cookbook together, our second cookbook. We haven't come up with the idea on how or what we're going to call it or what we're going to include, but we're definitely, number 2 is in the works.
Wow, that's really amazing. Going back to your company, Coluccio Sons?
Coluccio,
yeah.
Yes.
What goals do you have for that company, and where do you see it going in the next 10 years?
So we have a retail store and a wholesale business, and Italian food has become so predominant, and everybody realizes the importance of high quality ingredients, high quality olive oils, high quality pastas, especially after COVID. Everybody realizes the necessity to eat good quality foods because what you put in your body is very, very important. So I could see us growing. We're reaching out to different markets. Our products right now are in national chains. We're in one national chain. We're in Home Goods.
Wow, that's really cool and really amazing. What was the process of you going from just your company to then getting into stores?
So it's basically, we don't do much marketing or public advertising. It's basically through word of mouth.
Okay.
And everybody realizes the high quality products that we sell at reasonably priced.
Do you see yourself in your company eventually like going to and being more commercialized?
I'm not sure about that because sometimes bigger isn't always better.
Okay.
Sometimes when you go bigger, you lose the quality portion of the products. So as of now, I see it's maintaining the way we are, carrying high quality products at the best price possible.
Okay. Well, that's great. And I have one final question. So, what is one piece of advice you'd like to give to our listeners about just anything?
I mean, if you have a dream and you really feel it, and I mean, there were obstacles along the way, obviously, and downs, and but just don't give up. If you really believe in something from your heart, just become blindsided and just follow your dreams.
That's really.
I mean, anything is possible. I mean, I don't come from a family of publishers and authors, and this is just has been surreal for myself and my family.
Wow, that's amazing.
Just to walk into Barnes and Nobles and see my book on a shelf is just, I still can't believe it's my book.
Yeah, that's really cool. And congratulations on all of your success and all of your accomplishments.
Thank you.
Really great to kind of sit down with you here today and learn more about your story and everything you've accomplished. So once again, congratulations and thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, thank you.
today.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure, and thank you for the invite. And again, follow your dreams. I mean, it might seem like something that's out of reality, but just don't lose sight on what you really want. If you really believe it in your heart that you could achieve it, go for it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Once again, that's all I have for you guys today. I'm your host, Rashida Poonawala, signing off.